Let's get into it, right? Message number 2: you've been fed a lie. I'm going hard in here because essentially applying to jobs and waiting, it just isn't enough anymore, if it ever was. But now it's really complicated because so many people are applying for jobs, and so the old way of waiting for an answer basically has a 98% chance of failure, if not more. Right, that's massive, which means the odds are against you there, right? One out of two, I'm being actually quite nice here, but 1 out of 25 people will apply for the job. In most companies, the big ones, it could be up to 500, sometimes even more. 98% are eliminated at the screening right away. Only 2% get the interview, and depending on how many people applied, it could be 5 people, it could be 10 people, and then 1 person gets the job. Right, so 98% are already eliminated at screening. So if your major strategy to get a job is to apply for the job, well, you're already missing out, and that's a problem. And so what I wanted to do is to kind of illustrate this problem is that I'll go into what it looks like when you're in an applicant tracking system, which is what recruiters look at, right? Basically, recruiters are super overwhelmed. I've had the opportunity to be hiring at every single role, right, at different companies, whether I've been a manager, a director, of an executive, so I know what it looks like, right? They're typically really overwhelmed. They typically recruit maybe 3 to 5 roles, sometimes even more at once, right? So that could be over 1,200 applications that they're looking at any given time, if not more. In addition to all the screenings of the interviews, right? When they're going in addition to all the screening that they have here, they will also need to be booking interviews, right? So they're actually reaching out to people, writing messages, trying to see what's a good time. They're also talking internally with people, their hiring managers to see when they're available. They're setting up follow-up messages in between meetings or scheduling, when they're scheduling, and after, how well the meeting went, the interview went, then they're following up. They're discussing compensation internally with their hiring manager, but also directly with the candidates. They're creating contracts that they can, then send to different people, and they also attending internal meetings. There's a bunch of internal meetings that they're part of. And then they're answering a mountain of emails at the same time, right? And at some point, they have to figure out a way to have lunch. So recruiters are just absolutely overwhelmed. And so they typically will have 2 priorities, right? As soon as they receive, it's time to go and they have to open up a new job rec and they need to look into it, they have 2 priorities. The first one is going to be, let me move this here, is to archive all the bad candidates as quickly as possible. That 98% I'm talking about, that's right here, right? And then 2% is, let's go ahead and identify the quick wins right away that have potential. That's it. And so as soon as they go in there, you will be archived in a heartbeat, right? This is like, okay, lack of job qualifications, overqualified, didn't follow directions, if there's specific directions in the job description, or the application process. Accomplishments aren't showcased, in your resume or CV. You have a generic cover letter that just doesn't look any good, doesn't give any value. You've been job hopping way too many times. You're short on experience, employment gaps, unprofessional social media, out of town candidate, maybe like you're from somewhere else and they wanted someone local. Maybe it's an international candidate that needs a visa, unprofessional email, right? We know the folks who have those unprofessional emails, lots of typos everywhere. Listen, the list can go on. There are a million reasons why you would get eliminated in a heartbeat. And so then what they do is that they look for the quick wins, right? To bring the hiring manager. And so that means like what, looking at, let me move this here. Keep moving my head. They're looking at quick wins such as relevant previous experience, right? If they're looking for a product marketing manager, well, that person was already a product marketing manager before, or sales account executive or customer success or so on. They have a certain amount of user experience. They have a name brand. Ooh, they came from Google. Ooh, they came from the hot startup. They have a referral, an internal candidate that say, hey, I'm vouching for this person. Relevant degree, right? You're applying it to something specific and you have the relevant degree, or you come from a top tier school, top tier consulting firm. You have many accomplishments, right? All these different things. Like they'll just look for the quick wins because obviously, it looks good on paper. So, the manager's going to like it. And so the problem is that your strategy of going through the hiring manager, your strategy of going through the recruiter is not going to work because you're going to get funneled through that 98% that's going to get automatically rejected. Your best chance is to go directly to this guy, or this lady, right? And that's going to be really, really, really important because that's going to increase your odds of actually getting in a conversation and having an interview. And that's what we're teaching here in this program. And so key message 3 is the odds are against you, right? If you don't fit the job description, you don't have the right experience or the name brand, you're often overlooked. And if you're not one of the first applicants either, because obviously you can get up to 1,250 applications that they're having at one single time, you'll likely be a ghost in the process, right? And so key message number 4, to break into top tech companies or land your dream job, you need to think like a growth hacker. You really need to think like a growth hacker. And there are thousands across the globe that have broken into top tech companies against all odds. Amazing people, really, that I've had the chance to interview on the podcast. Some people that I know that I know personally. Some people that I work with at LinkedIn in the past. I mean, everything, right? Everything you can think of that are coming from different backgrounds. If you're thinking, I don't know, I'm black and I'm Latino, I don't have enough experience, I'm gay, lesbian, anything you can think of, right? I don't have enough money, I don't have the right network, I don't have the right experience. Anything you can think of being against all the odds, these folks have done it, and they're proof that you can do that too as well. Right? You don't live in a major city. You never had a mentor. You didn't have access to resources. All these people will show you that it's possible regardless of all that. You can listen to some of these stories. But for example, you got Dan Savage here. Absolutely love this guy. He worked literally, he was obviously working with the U.S. Armed Forces, and he basically grew up in the suburbs. I had a conversation with him on the podcast. You can listen to it. Grew up in Chicago suburbs. His dad was a warehouse man. His mom was a kindergarten teacher. He did 5 years in the U.S. Army, served in conflict zones like Iraq. Graduated from Harvard Kennedy School, so that was very cool. Broke into tech at LinkedIn, and now he's a VP at Shift, a career accelerator company of the U.S. military, for the U.S. military, and he's also working on a bunch of other projects now. So at least at the time of this conversation. And so, absolutely amazing, the pivot that he's done. Then you have other folks as well, like Lisa Frankersh, also interviewed her on the podcast, from fashion to enterprise sales at LinkedIn. She was from Long Island, New York, started in fashion, discovered her talent for sales, moved into print media sales, then broke into tech at LinkedIn. And she was like basically one of the only black female enterprise B2B SaaS account executives with a 7-figure quota, right? Selling millions of euros, dollars a year. And, her message was like, your brain is the most powerful tool. If you can imagine it, you can achieve it. And I think I got one more, which is Jeremiah Clark. It was also interviewed him on the podcast, from a single mom and low income household to, head of ops in a VC firm. And he grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, single parent household, earning less than, $24K a year. He was inspired by his mom, and just how hard of a worker she was. And so he decided to pursue opportunities relentlessly. He moved to Silicon Valley, he broke into LinkedIn, then pivoted to Pinterest, and then he became the head of operations in a top venture capital firm in the Bay Area. And now he's on to other bigger and better things. And so, he said in the podcast, I didn't know anyone in Silicon Valley, never worked in tech, but thought myself scalable skills to always have opportunities to pivot. And these are really, really important lessons. And you have many, many more success stories, alumni, mentors, coaches of the top 1% Academy Accelerator that work in these amazing companies all over the world. 1Password, Payfit, Gusto, Swile, Conto, Hopin now, Doctolib, Calendly, and honestly, it's just been amazing to see. And so my question is this you, right? You're ambitious. Let me move my little face there again. You're ambitious, right here. You're driven, right? Your challenges, maybe you lack, the relevant experience, the seniority, the sexy name brand, a strong network, and you're looking to break into a top tech company, land an executive role, maybe pivot into XYZ, right? Sales, product marketing, anything you can think of. And so if this is you, what I can say is that your job as what I call a career hacker is to do whatever it takes to get in the race early. As you can see, a lot of people will apply for the job. You got to find a way to get in there as quickly as possible and get in front of the right person. Then you have to absolutely obliterate the competition. That's it. There's no second place or third place. It's like one person gets the job and that's it. And then land the job with the package you deserve. Right? You deserve. That's really important because it's like, okay, you can get in, but then, get in at a undervalued, and that's not good too. And at the beginning of my career, I was undervaluing myself and not negotiating for the type of salaries I knew I deserved. And so I'll tell you about how to do that. And so here you go, right? Like I mentioned, we're going fast. There's a ton of content. You can watch this video over and over again. There's a bunch of other trainings. But, now we're completing kind of like the first part. We Let me move this right here. Boom. We understood the potential of the tech companies. We looked at how difficult it is to enter. You have to think like a growth hacker to make it happen. Now what we're going to do is that we're going to talk about the power of LinkedIn as a key asset in the strategy. Then we're going to go into debunking those myths, then the 7 steps to break into top companies, right? The formula itself, and then we're going to hear obviously about opportunities to work together for those that want more after this course, right?